On Facebook, Catherine Stanek posted this about her gallery's new exhibition, Pure Abstraction. I am in awe of the artist capable of bringing so much beauty, joy, and peace into this world. What a pleasure it is just to walk through the door. Britain's Tate Modern says, abstract art is art that does not attempt to represent an accurate depiction of a visual reality, but instead uses shapes, colors, forms, and gestural marks to achieve its effect. Abstract art may have begun over 100 years ago with Wassily Kandinsky, but these artists make clear that in the 21st century, it is still a vital and viable way to create.
I'm Donna Quinn. I'm really excited to share some of my old work and some of my new tile work and the direction that these little pieces are going in. It started out as a cluster of different series. When I had a visit with some of the ladies from Stanek, they started pulling the tiles apart and moving them around and looking at them in ways very different than what I had originally envisioned. It was a little outside my comfort zone, but it was really interesting to see things that I had intended to go together be pulled apart, and to put things that aren't supposed to be or weren't intended to be together, living complementary side by side.
If somebody were to buy your multi-tile piece, would you allow them to mix and match?
It's really delightful for me to see people come in and move them around, and they develop their own relationships with the piece and then within the piece. What I like about the piece is that it's modular and it can move into a horizontal space, a narrow space. You can put it around a corner. It's very versatile, and I welcome people to engage with it that way. The other two pieces were actually done a few years apart. One is sort of like the grandparent of the other. What I hadn't realized was that I had carried forward some of the mark making and some of the tones and the palette. So they really do work together as a duo, but they weren't conceived that way.
Hi, my name is Scott Farrell. I'm a photographer. These are all abstract photographs that I've taken everywhere from the coast of Maine, Cape Cod, the north and south shores of Long Island. I go around seeking out abstract landscapes in man-made substrates such as, in this case, boat hulls. I don't manipulate my images in any way, shape, or form. I just work off the camera raw files and make minor contrast and color balance adjustments. These were, at one time, clean, unblemished surfaces that have each been exposed to a wide range of elemental influence, either extreme temperature, wind, water, ice, sunlight, or other physical effects, have transformed what I call the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Do you ever get yelled at by boat owners?
One time, but usually I will go and I'll talk to the boatyard manager, and he'll be very cooperative. He'll say, "What are you taking pictures of? You want to take pictures of that?"
What's your name, young lady?
Mary.
Mary what?
No Mikos.
Oh.
I'm exhibiting 2 new vertical canvases. That's very exciting to me because I don't generally work vertically. The canvases, of course, are abstract and they're mixed media, mostly ending up with oil paint. There's line work and various other techniques I try to use in applying the paint to the canvas and sometimes removing paint from the canvas. They are process-oriented. I work with the materials and develop the composition as the canvas speaks to the situation. So.
Mary, is there Greek stuff in your art?
Of course.
What there is?
The Greek alphabet's in there. You didn't notice?
It's for real? Oh. Mary, you probably don't want to comment on how popular you are on YouTube. Would you like to say thank you to the YouTube audience?
Of course. I want to say thank you to my YouTube audience. I'm sorry I don't see you very often, but thanks again.
Okay, there you go, YouTubers.
Hi, I'm Deborah Fine. For the first 20 years of my career, I was a realistic artist. I began abstract art in 2007, and abstract gives me a sense of great freedom that I don't have when I was doing realistic work. My art is based on the relationships between color and line and shape that moves people around. And I like when people are looking at my work that they get lost in it and they need to look further and look around. Art is not something that I plan. Accidents happen, and that's what creates the painting. And the more accidents I seem to have, the better the piece comes out at the end. The work is shaped by constantly taking things apart and putting them back together, adjusting the elements and the layers. And when you look at my work, you see there's tons of layers in there. When I'm finally finished, I look at it and I say, oh, that's it. That's exactly what I want. I'm not sure when I start that I know what I'm looking for. So that's what I do.
Eat some of that.
We're eating some health food, I see.
Hey, man.
How are you doing, Mo?
I'm doing well, thank you. The smaller works are the beginning of a whole new kind of situation for me. The interesting thing for me that's always been important is not so much the image when you finish, but each critical moment in the process becomes enormously important. And that's what continued to inspire me. And I'll take chances that I wouldn't have taken years ago because I'm constantly looking. What I don't want to do is be painting what I used to paint 5-10 years ago. I don't want to do that. I can't, because then you just start repeating yourself over and over and over again, and there's no energy in the work.
What do the titles mean to you?
The titles mean everything. They talk about my life, what I believe, they talk about issues that are important to me. I did a painting years ago, can't help but sing, because I used to sing and I used to play, and music is an important part of my life. Music is comforting on every level for me.
As is painting, apparently.
Yeah, well, painting becomes an exploration constantly. And much of what I do comes from nature. Right now, there's this wonderful moment when you look at the trees and they almost shine with light. Even though I was a realistic painter, I never left nature. It informs everything that I do.
Hi, I'm Michelle. These paintings are primarily about transformation, both in the literal sense with the growth of the painting over time, but also in an emotional sense. They're never quite what I expect when I start, and they grow into their own thing through the painting process and introspection. Sometimes I'll start a painting with a narrative in mind. When that doesn't fit with what I ultimately want to do, then I'll let the painting become something else. So even when there is a small piece of recognizable imagery, these get taken out of a literal context and made more emotional, subjective, more symbolic in the final piece. So it starts out as this amorphous, semi-narrative, semi-symbolic field in visual space, and then it becomes a more solid shape or system of shapes. Solid color comes after, as I decide what shape best suits the mood of the piece. So this form grew out of an idea of a frond that's unfurling. So the yellow is applied after I've decided on the shape, but the underpainting is what creates the mood and psychology to the piece.
My name is Mary Spinelli. They are all on gessoed ragboard. The medium is alkyd, a fast-drawing oil-based paint. They're purely abstract. I have no preconceived notion when I'm doing the work. When I start, it's white, nothing on it, and I immediately smear it up with a bunch of paint, move it around, trying to find something that will hold me, that I can work with. At the very beginning, it could be very aggressive. This could take maybe a few hours till I find something that I can work with, some sort of exciting mark or passage. If I don't find it, I wipe it out and go into it the next day. But I have to find something that I can work with, and then it just takes off from there.
Is the landscape element important to you?
It becomes important when I see it evolving into a landscape. I go with it, aside from being purely abstract. It does have the look of a landscape. I like that.
My name is Michael Quadland.
People often think that my work is metal in construction, and it's not. I'm always pleased when they think so, because that's the kind of surface I'm after, a metallic surface. But it's either plywood or a material called AZEK, the composite materials available at Home Depot, with layers of paint on top of it. I have 3 pieces in the show that I'm very pleased about. The first piece is a wall piece. What was new for me, Catherine asked me to do freestanding pieces. That's a direction I've been heading in my work, but she pushed me over the edge, I'm happy to say, and I've been kind of worried about them since I sent them down here, but walking in tonight I see they look terrific, and she did a beautiful job of mounting them and displaying them and lighting them, so I'm very pleased. This is kind of a new thing for me, this show, and I'm so happy to be here. I love the Stanek Gallery.
Hi, I'm Louise Strawbridge.
I've made sculptures out of found things and things that I made called steles. And they're memorials to persons, events, things that happened that should be remembered, but perhaps aren't always. The materials are things from old factories, found metals, pig gut, things that for me feel like bandages and wire. And on some of them there are papers I've picked up off the sidewalk, shopping lists. One is someone getting mad at her boyfriend. I've always been drawn to found things because they come with their own history. You have something to start with.
3 of the artists were not at the gallery the night that I visited. Christina Weaver sent me a photograph of herself, plus an audio file of her discussing her work.
With this series of works, I paint objects and make compositional choices that reveal the inherent abstraction in all painting. The fabrics and papers I curate and accumulate lend themselves to the richness of oil and offer endless permutations of color and light and form. I've stuck with this subject matter for 5 years. There's a lot to explore there. Through the arrangement and painting of these man-made textures, a rich topography emerges. Theatrical lighting, dissonant color combinations, and playing with cropping, viewpoint, and scale all emphasize the various physical qualities of my subjects. So these meditations on the formal qualities of familiar items transform them into something surreal or otherworldly. My paintings are faithful representations, but through the painting medium, you get glimpses of a different place, space, and time.
2 very intriguing paintings were done by an artist from Asheville, North Carolina, who sent me a photo and a written statement. Barbara Fisher told me that her 2 paintings are part of a series that she's been doing. They are 36 inches by 36 inches each. Acrylic, ink, and graphite on canvas. She wrote, "The tangled mapping paintings are complex but contemplative, chaotic but orderly, light and airy though layered. The images bring to mind aerial, city, or transit maps. They can also be seen as tangled thoughts, the brain's mysterious circuitry, or the skeleton, internal forms of some forgotten species. The process is intuitive and thoughtful, combining a Zen approach with a studied sense of composition and color. They can be calming or exciting, depending on the projection of the viewer. The final artist, Hauless Qamar, sent me a one-sentence statement about her work. She simply wrote, "These paintings are a moment defined." Stanek was right. All of the artists in this show make work that is infused with beauty, joy, and peace. Come see it before it ends on December 29th.